Tensions are rising in the tech and artificial intelligence space. Just the other day, former Twitter executives sued Elon Musk for over $128 million in combined unpaid severance, while Elon Musk himself has since filed a lawsuit against Sam Altman and OpenAI for a breach of contract. With lawsuits flying all over the place, it's probably a good time to go down memory lane and remind ourselves of 7 tech leaders who broke bad and landed in jail for reasons due to fraud, hacking, and some other insane reasons. Coming in at number 7 is none other than Trevor Milton, the founder and former CEO of Nikola Motor Company, or better known as the guy who faked an entire company. Milton became an overnight billionaire when the company went public in June 2020. Milton told everyone that he had created a fully functioning semi-truck prototype which he knew was inoperable. He also said Nikola built an electric and hydrogen-powered pickup truck from the ground up, which was discovered to be, well, a huge pile of garbage. These false claims and many other misleading statements were in a bid to drive up Nikola's stock price by baiting investors to jump on the bandwagon. Meanwhile, Milton was Nikola's largest shareholder, with 52 million shares, and the company at its peak was valued at $30 billion. In October 2022, Milton was convicted on 3 of 4 counts levied against him, and he subsequently received a 4-year prison sentence for lying to investors. In the words of the US Attorney Damian Williams, "Fake it till you make it is not an excuse for fraud, and if you mislead your investors, you will pay a big price." Interestingly, Milton showed no sign of remorse and kept insisting that he didn't intend to harm anyone, saying that he didn't commit the crimes levied against him, but we all know the law does not grant a pass for good intentions. That is assuming he even had one in the first place. Many investors are of the opinion that Milton actually deserved more than a 4-year jail term for being so shady. But what are your thoughts on that? Anyway, being shady has nothing to do with gender. At the age of 19, Elizabeth Holmes founded Theranos, a medical startup company that promised to carry out blood tests rapidly using very minimal amounts of blood. It was meant to be a cheaper alternative and a less painful procedure, which would challenge industry leaders like LabCorp and Quest Diagnostics. So Holmes set the ball rolling with her Edison machine, and everyone was excited. By 2015, she had become the youngest self-made billionaire in the United States, with $9 billion to her name. In a male-dominated Silicon Valley, Elizabeth Holmes had stolen the spotlight and was on a roll. But then, research by a Wall Street Journal reporter and some observations from whistleblowers revealed that her technology was broken. It couldn't perform over 200 blood tests as advertised. In fact, the few ones that were carried out were flawed and largely unreliable. Many patients received the wrong diagnosis, and in spite of all this, Holmes promised investors a bigger profit than the company was making. Even Walter White in Breaking Bad would have been proud of these moves. What do you think? But her luck would run out, because in January 2022, Elizabeth Holmes was found guilty of defrauding investors, and in November that same year, she was sentenced to 11 years in prison and was ordered to pay $452 million to the victims of the fraud. The gravity of the Holmes case was so strong that it ended up unfortunately creating a stigma for other female entrepreneurs, but it was incomparable to what a certain engineer did. Being a co-founder at Google's self-driving car program, Project Chauffeur, which later became Waymo, gave Levandowski access to some of the company's highly protected trade secrets. Levandowski allegedly downloaded thousands of confidential files and transferred them to his personal laptop. These files included critical engineering information about the hardware used on Project Chauffeur self-driving vehicles. Levandowski then left Google in 2016 to launch his own self-driving truck truck company Otto, which Uber later acquired for $680 million and put Levandowski in charge of its entire self-driving efforts. Uber would then fire Levandowski the following year after Waymo pressed charges for Levandowski raiding their design server. The Department of Justice also claimed that he left Google with troves of confidential technical documents with the intention of using them for his personal gain. The case lingered for about a year, and in the 2018 settlement, Uber agreed to pay Waymo an equity stake of 0.34%, amounting to $240 million based on Uber's valuation at the time. Meanwhile, Levandowski was sentenced to 18 months in prison and ordered to pay over $750,000 in restitution to Waymo. Levandowski was one hell of a lucky dude because he was granted a full presidential pardon by Donald Trump on January 20th, 2021 in his last day in office. But not every convict is lucky enough to get a presidential pardon. This next dude literally got fried. No pun intended. SBF was the founder of FTX cryptocurrency exchange and was celebrated as one of the richest people in the world with an 11-figure net worth a little over a year ago. But just a couple of weeks ago, he was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. How did this happen? Bankman-Fried's public persona masked significant problems at FTX. He lent billions of dollars in customer funds to Alameda Research, a trading firm and crypto hedge fund founded by himself. Following the downward trend of the crypto market in 2022, his trades crumbled and the entire house of cards collapsed. Evidence of potential fraud surfaced, and investors began withdrawing their money, forcing the company to go bankrupt. This was big news because FTX had gotten so big that sports stars like Steph Curry and Tom Brady had endorsed it, coupled with lots of mega influencers on YouTube. But with everything crashing, a jury in New York found the former crypto mogul guilty of 7 criminal charges of fraud and money laundering, accused of embezzling customers' funds to the tune of $8 billion to keep his beloved Alameda Research solvent, and also making several investments abroad, plus funding political campaigns in the US. Bankman-Fried's crimes remain one of the biggest financial crimes in American history. But this next tech bro was just as good, or should we say bad. As we get into the top 3, it's probably a good time to hit that subscribe button if you've been enjoying this video. Appreciate. Max Butler, also known as Max Vision or better still Iceman, was a cybersecurity consultant and hacker who devised a method to bypass normal authentication on the American government websites. He did this while trying to fix a security hole in the Bind server daemon, which is a set of tools for managing the phone book of the internet. All of these went down in 1998, and the audacious kingpin had a plan to rule the black market in stolen credit cards. He was eventually caught by an American Air Force investigator through pop-up notifications and was sentenced to 18 months in jail, which was to begin in May 2001. But Butler wasn't done just yet. Once he got released, Butler went back to his hacking skills and launched a website called Carder's Market for criminals to illegally trade credit card details. Over $86 million was lost to fraudulent purposes. Butler's luck ran out in 2007 when he got arrested again and was convicted of 2 counts of wire fraud and illegal trades. This time, he bagged a 13-year prison sentence, the longest ever for hacking in the United States at the time. Butler was also ordered to pay $27 million in restitution. During his trial, Butler said he prefers using his skills for the good of society, and that he hopes in the future he will once again be given the opportunity to don the white hat. I guess we'll see about that. Butler was released in 2021 and will face 5 years of supervised release. His story has also been featured in an episode of the CNBC television program American Greed. Crime doesn't pay, guys. Well, some would argue that in some cases it's worth it. This brings us to the next tech bro on our list. Born in 1957, Sri Lankan-American Raj Rajaratnam was the founder of Galleon, a successful technology hedge fund, and had deep connections to bit tech. His brilliant trading strategies, along with his strong connections to tech giants like IBM, AMD, Intel, and many others, made him one of the richest men of his time. So what was his crime? Well, Raj's brilliant trading strategies were hugely dependent on confidential information from tech insiders, which we all know is illegal. Raj got exposed and was arrested in October 2009. In May 2011, he was found guilty on all 14 counts of conspiracy and securities fraud, and in October of the same year, he was sentenced to 11 years in prison. After serving 7.5 years in jail, Raj was released in the summer of 2019. 2 years later, he published his memoir, Uneven Justice: The Plot to Sink Galleon, which is an attempt to describe the events surrounding his arrest, conviction, and his criticisms of the US criminal justice system. According to Raj, there are a corrupt few in government who act with impunity and destroy lives and families to further their career ambitions. As you would expect, his publication raised a few eyebrows, but nowhere close to the person who comes out top on our list. We can only imagine how Ross Ulbricht felt when he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Ross Ulbricht founded Silk Road, a website known for its illegal marketplace selling literally anything. Silk Road allowed anyone to trade anything without any form of regulation, anonymously with cryptocurrency. The free market created by Silk Road was used to facilitate all kinds of illegal activities. Law enforcement agents made over 60 individual undercover purchases of these substances from Silk Road vendors. They bought stuff like heroin, cocaine, ecstasy, and LSD in their attempt to catch Ulbricht. Meanwhile, the tech bro had gained over $13 million in commissions from the illegal sales facilitated through the site. Between February 2011 and July 2013, Silk Road sold more than 9 million bitcoins. That was when Bitcoin was only a few bucks. Imagine how much Bitcoin is worth today and multiply that by 9 million. This dude would easily be the richest man in the world, but unfortunately he got busted because of one mistake. Ross used his personal email to promote the Silk Road in its early days, and the investigators used that to identify him. Known as Dread Pirate Roberts on the website, Ross was arrested in a public library in San Francisco while logged into the Silk Road as an admin. Ross would ultimately receive 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole plus 40 years. Brutal. He's literally going to die in prison for creating a PHP website. But what are your thoughts on his punishment? Way too harsh or fully deserved? Anyway, this video wouldn't be complete without mentioning a few other tech bros who were up to lots of mischief. Aaron Swartz, a computer programmer who co-invented the first version of RSS, was arrested in January 2011 and charged with illegally downloading files from Jester. Unfortunately, he allegedly committed suicide in the Brooklyn apartment 2 years later in January 2013. And then we have Kim.com, who, after his rise to fame as a hacker in the 1990s, was arrested in 1994 for trafficking in stolen phone calling card numbers. He is the founder and former CEO of Mega Upload, a file hosting service. Next up is John McAfee launched the world's first commercial antivirus software in 1987. On tax evasion charges, he was extradited to the United States, but was found dead on June 23, 2021 in his prison cell, hours after the Spanish National Court ordered his extradition to the United States. His death sparked conspiracy theories and speculations, and foul play was suspected. Honestly, we've barely touched on this subject, as it would be impossible to go through every fact, perspective, and argument about these tech leaders in such a short video. However, the aim here is for those of us in the tech and AI space to be able to learn a thing or two from these examples. As usual, we'll continue to keep you posted on the latest happenings in the AI world, so stay tuned, as you won't want to miss out on what we have cooking. But if you missed out on last week's video, don't worry, I've got you covered right here.